Hey everyone, today on the show, we are talking about a really interesting topic calling fueling the athlete's mind. We talk a lot about fueling the athlete's body, but specifically starting to dial in into what are specific nutrients that we can use to help fuel our young athletes, our teen athletes, et cetera, that not only help their performance, but can also help their mental performance. And I have a fellow registered dietitian joining me today, Karen Todd, who is the global brand marketing executive and vice president at Kyowa Hakko in the US. I'm going to let her tell you all about this. We've recently just figured out that we have tons of connections in a variety of different ways. And I always love bringing someone who has a background in my world, which is nutrition, as well as exercise and working in all facets of that area. So Karen, I'm going to let you formally introduce yourself a little bit more with some details on what you do, what all you have done, which is a lot, and then we can dive into some questions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Amy, for having me. It's great to be here. Great to meet you finally
Yeah, I
as well.
know.
I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a strength and conditioning specialist, and I've been working in this field and with athletes for decades now. And from youth sports to elite athletes, I actually was an athletic trainer in college at Texas A&M. So that led me down the path to becoming a registered dietitian and learning more about how nutrition and exercise can actually peak performance.
Mhm.
And I think whoever you're working with, if it's youth or professional athletes, the basics are really important from balanced meals to hydration to sleep to
Yep,
recovery. It's really, really important. But then there's that next level.
yep.
And that's where what I do at Kyowa Hakko. I actually head up the marketing side of things from a point of view that's, I want to say, credible. We have clinically studied branded ingredients that we study ongoing and have been doing for over 35 years now. And we bring the science to the finished product companies and to the consumers so they can trust the ingredients that we have and the science that support them.
I love that. And yeah, I think nowadays, as you know, athletes are always looking for an edge. Granted, I argue that they can usually do a lot to fix their nutrition and really start to look at that. But when we talk about supplementation and all these different things, how can we give athletes an edge? So I'd love to talk just kind of starting. Obviously, you and I both talking about fueling athletes, eating often, balancing your plate. I always call it shaping an athlete's plate with carbohydrates and protein and plenty of color and plenty of fluids and all those things and what we do pre-post exercise. But I would love to hear a little more about how you have worked with athletes in general to help fuel their bodies, but then how you've also worked with like the parents and coaches, which are lots of the people that we're talking to really help fuel athletes in this space of high intensity sports and potentially look at what are some of those things that can give them an edge on top of a really solid diet, which is obviously the base of anything that we're recommending for athletes.
Absolutely. I've worked very, very closely with more the parents and the coaches or
Love
strength
that.
trainers
Hmm.
specifically, because those are the ones that are looking for help on what they can do.
Yeah.
And the youth athletes really aren't looking, they're looking to have fun and perform.
Hmm.
And the biggest mistake I do see some of the parents doing or coaches even is treating these youths like mini adults, like smaller adults,
Yeah.
and not taking in consideration that these are smaller athletes, of course, but
Right.
they're still growing. They're building
Yeah.
muscle, they're building bones, those neural connections are still happening. So there's a lot going on in their bodies, a lot of hormones happening. And I find that just going down to the basics is really, really important. Sticking to the routines is really important.
Hmm.
Consistency.
Yep.
Don't make it complex. All my nephews are into sports, and I've tried to explain science, nutrition to them, and I found like you just need to go. It's
Too
good for your
much.
brain.
Yeah. This helps
Uh,
you. It helps you
this
perform
helps
better and
you.
recover faster. I know.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
And
What's the
so that was a good
ROI on
learning
what you're
curve for
telling
me.
me to do? What is the ROI?
And with athletes, with youth too, it's really from building on what they're layering on those balanced meals, the hydration,
Mhm.
recovery, all those things that hopefully they're already doing or learning to do as they grow and as they age, their they're putting more programs into place to get them into those routines.
Yeah.
So they are getting more routine. I think that's really, really important as they grow
Yeah.
and develop, because then that that brain body or brain muscle connection
Yeah.
really grows and can be established at that point in time.
Yeah, I
So this
love
is
how,
a
oh, go
crucial
ahead.
area.
I love how you're tying it into the brain. So, as we kind of start thinking about not only fueling their bodies, but fueling their brain, and really, I would say that mind body connection. I would love to hear your take on kind of that's becoming very popular, as we were talking about before we started into the podcast, in regards to the space, as well as just, I think, the fitness and the wellness space. So, talk a little bit about that mind body connection, brain body connection, as it relates to resilience for athletes, as it relates to the high intensity training and competition that we're seeing athletes go through on a regular basis for oftentimes at very young ages.
Yeah. The mind-body connection influences performance, especially in young athletes. And I see this not only in athletes that are on the playing fields, but
Hmm.
also on like the chessboards or behind the scenes.
Recently
And
talking about this, yes. Hmm.
that ties into both. So especially for youth, because they're just establishing these connections, the what's happening mentally can affect their stress levels, their focus,
Right.
even their confidence. And I
Yeah.
think being an athlete at that young age is really important for mental confidence and will shape them to who they'll become in the future. But their body directly reflects what's happening with them going on mentally.
Yeah.
So that brain body connection or mind body connection is really, really important.
Well, and dialing in on the cognitive health, we talk about athletes. A lot of times we talk about, balancing your blood sugar so that you're balancing your energy levels, but also your mental acuity, mental sharpness, all these different things. And I feel like nowadays, even with younger athletes, I mean, the need for an edge is legit. Like people are looking at what are the next things. And even the landscape that we're playing in now, high school athletes are looking, how do I play in college? And now with NIL and the transfer portal, like it's a real life scenario. How do you get that edge? And cognitively, I think that can be an edge for athletes. So I would love to hear kind of your take on obviously what you do and your work now, but some of the cognitive function components. What can athletes do to improve focus, improve clarity, obviously from a nutrition perspective? But then are there also things that they can do from a supplementation side that might be able to really give them an edge?
Absolutely. I think it's really important for routines, I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
but also everything you put into your body to help reduce stress,
Hmm.
anxiety, and that breathing, visualization, that helps improve brain health overall.
Hmm.
But there are nutrients. I know you speak about omega-3s quite often, and I'm
Yep.
a big supporter of omega-3s. I don't eat fish, actually, so I take supplementation. And
I love
that,
salmon. I ate it three times over every day over the weekend, so Friday, Saturday,
good for
and
you.
Sunday. So I'm like, hopefully that's enough. I'm like, that's good.
You plenty. That's great. Awesome. But for the rest of us,
Yeah.
at least there's supplements we can go to. That's really important. Carbohydrates, it's the brain's fuel. So you,
Hmm.
of course, need carbohydrates as the base there, protein to help balance out the blood sugar levels. But then the vitamins, the omega-3s come in, the B vitamins. And then once you're looking at a different level, and I shouldn't say a different level, but it's just that next level for mental
Hmm.
clarity, neural communication, that's where these ingredients that you see on the shelves and on the supplement shelves come in. And you'll see these in energy drinks, you'll see these in brain health formulas focused on mental clarity,
Yep.
neural transmissions. And that's important to know a little bit more about how these can affect you and how they can impact brain health and ultimately performance.
Yeah, talk about some of them. I know we've talked about Cognizant, other ones that are out there, because I fear that some of the challenge there is parents don't know what a lot of these things are, and they might see them in a product. Is that good or is that bad? Like, they may not know like their kids are taking not necessarily a supplement, but to your point, they're drinking an energy drink or it's in some type of product that has additional nutrients, vitamins, minerals, etc. So I'd love for you to break down what some of those are, really as an education base, to help parents understand these are some of the supplements that you could see. Here's the benefit, here's why, and just let you go into your expertise in that area.
Absolutely. I think it's important to look at the youth or the child and adolescent
Yeah,
for what they're doing or where they are in their life stage. Not everything is for everybody.
right.
There are youth supplements for a reason versus an adult supplement.
Hmm.
I do recommend multivitamins just for covering those bases.
Fill the
I think
gaps. Fill the
fill the
gaps.
gaps, fill the
Yeah.
gaps, exactly. That's really important. And
Hmm.
then when you're getting into performance or looking for that mental edge,
Hmm.
there are ingredients like choline is a really good
Hmm.
example of one that's a building block and an essential nutrient. And then the other one with that is does provide choline is cognizant, acetylcholine. And it's that next level of choline that can help not only provide choline into your body, but help provide the focus and attention that choline is not necessarily going to give you. So it's providing you the building blocks and added benefit for
Yeah.
long-term brain health.
So let's talk about, so let's break down because some people don't know what choline is. I know what my
Yeah.
parents, they're in their 70s, so they're obsessed with brain health, like some parents are about their children. And so I'm like, choline. And it's funny, except for my mother, my entire family loves eggs. Like my sister's kids
Yeah.
have eaten eggs since the moment they literally could chew anything. And so obviously we talk about that as being such a nutrient rich protein source, having choline. So talk to us a little bit about what choline does, number one, just educating everyone, what foods we find it in, but then how, to your point, like acetylcholine can really take it an extra notch above. Because I feel like people might have heard of the nutrient, but they may not necessarily know what it is and what it does and what benefit it can provide.
Sure, sure. Choline it helps provide the basic building blocks for phosphatidylcholine and helps increase acetylcholine in your body. And acetylcholine is that brain nutrient that helps keep all your neurons firing,
Hmm.
keeping you on
Connectivity.
track. And if you're
Mhm.
growing, and if you're growing and developing, this is really, really important. You have enough choline in your diet. Choline is actually in a lot of infant formulas as well, because that's
Yeah.
very, very important for infants. So it's important as you age, as you grow. As once you get to a certain age, your body doesn't need as much choline, but it needs other nutrients. Those eggs are an excellent source of choline, as you
Mhm.
just mentioned. There's other sources as well. You can find choline in sources of liver. Liver. We don't eat liver like we used to in the 70s, believe it or not.
My
It's not
dad does.
popular anymore.
He was a good, like growing up, he would always eat liver and onions from Luby's. If anyone remembers Luby's, I'm not even sure Luby's is still around. Every once in a while, you'll
It
see
is
one.
actually. It's
It
still around.
is.
Yes.
Yeah, liver and onions. I mean, like he is, and my great grandmother who lived to be 100. So I guess we should give her something. They both ate liver. I'm like,
They
oh,
still,
not
and
for
Luby
me.
still sells liver and onions as one of
That,
their
yeah,
Luann
on
time
the Luann
specials.
plate.
Yep.
My
So it's
dad was liver and
important.
onions Luann
It's
plate.
absolutely important. We need it.
So
But
interesting.
once we get to a certain point, we do need that next level.
Yeah.
And I think it's important as a dietitian to take ingredients that are naturally found in your body,
Yep.
and your body's using them to help you recover, build neurotransmitters,
Hmm.
help you function better through life, but are not just temporarily fixes. And choline is a basic ingredient, a basic nutrient that's
Hmm.
important for all levels of all life, from young infants to the elderly. But then there's that next stage that helps provide choline and additional support, and that's the ingredient called citicoline.
Yeah.
And that's an ingredient that actually my company helps to provides manufacturers and supplies to companies to put into supplements, to put in drinks, and to put into functional foods and beverages that can be found in a wide variety of products in the grocery store, in the drugstore, and also in the supplement aisle and sports nutrition shops. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, where all do we see? I mean, I've learned a lot about cognizant instead of choline in the recent past, but where all would you say that, like, if parents, coaches, they were like, well, where would I see that nutrient? Obviously, potentially, like in a vitamin, like some type of actual supplement form. But what about in other products? Where would you say it's the most prevalent?
it's right now it's very popular in energy drinks.
Which we
It
do
isn't
not want
a
your
lot.
athletes drinking more of, so that's a problem.
Yes, yes. And but for an athlete actually, because they don't necessarily want a lot of caffeine. And there are
Right.
restrictions for athletes with caffeine
Hmm.
intake. They need to be really careful of how much they take.
Yep.
I would recommend more of a dietary supplement for brain health.
Hmm.
And that's where the stick packs that are for focus, attention,
Yeah.
or a dietary supplement that is specific for brain health will have that amount of acetylcholine or cognizin that can be found in a nutritional supplement. It's not
Right.
necessarily going to be in a multivitamin because you do need
Right.
250 milligram to get to an efficacious dose.
Yeah, love that. And, the one thing I always try to educate parents and I mean, anybody, honestly, but parents about kids is that, people go, oh, should we supplement? Should we not? Should we do this? Should we not? So, this is usually my rule of thumb. Obviously, as you mentioned, a multivitamin can help fill nutrient gaps for picky eaters, kids that just, that are eating Cheetos and sports drinks all day long, and not focusing on getting in all the other nutrients we want them to get in. But my rule of thumb is always like, especially if you cut out a whole food group or you don't consume a whole food group that provides, a big source of that nutrient, you need to look at supplementing. So you mentioned, I don't eat fish. Okay. Well, so then omega fatty fish specifically, omega 3s are going to be your thing. If I ever see, an athlete that's like, oh, well, I don't like eggs, I'm like, oh, we're going to need some choline, choline, or like, oh, I don't, I am allergic to dairy or whatever that is. Okay, we're going to need calcium and vitamin D, whatever that is. So I do think like just getting those nutrients and looking where, oh, there's a gap in the space, but the acetylcholine, obviously, specifically in cognizant, can really kind of take it to a whole nother level. Okay, Karen. So, any other like trending ingredients that are really playing a role in brain health that maybe some parents, coaches, et cetera, aren't thinking about in relationship to brain health for athletes?
Another ingredient you'll see that's emerging in popularity, not just for muscle connection, is creatine for brain health.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're looking at these different ingredients, I would take a step back and make sure they're not doing the same thing in the body or same thing in
Yeah.
the brain. Because if they're doing the same thing, you're just doubling up on the same
Yeah.
ingredient. What's good is like omega 3s, B vitamins, creatine, cognizant. Those all work differently, and they're
Yeah.
not going to be building the same thing. So, but creatine is really popular. There's this new research that has come out to help support brain health and long-term brain health.
Mhm.
So it's a great ingredient for athletes. Um, the I would look at amounts and depending on what the body weight of the athlete is, you'd probably want to supplement accordingly. Creatine levels can be up to 6 grams or start at 6 grams for adults.
Mhm.
So of that body weight, and it can be a little bulky, meaning it's a lot of material to put into shakes
Sure.
or things to consume. So whatever you do consider, think what can be taken on a regular basis, what's easy, what's simple. Keep
Yeah.
it simple.
Yeah.
Don't put the complexity into it, making it so difficult. Um,
I was going to ask, you've mentioned routine a few times and keeping it simple. So for a parent that's, going to add something like a supplement like that might be a cognizant or a creatine, or obviously creatine, sometimes we're doing around a workout specifically, but are there certain times of day that that's important to like specifically to cognizant to consume? Does it matter? Does it matter in relationship to if it's in a drink, if it's in, I don't know if it comes in powder, but powder or a capsule, does any of that matter? And when you take it matter?
Sure, with cognizant, it can happen anytime, and I think that's very with omega 3s, B vitamins, you can take those
Yeah.
anytime. A lot of people do take them right 30 minutes before they go work out, so their workout is
Hmm.
dialed in and very
Hmm.
focused. But you can take it in the morning, in the evening, whatever works out best with that routine. It has a long half-life, meaning it's going to stay in the body for a longer period of time than a B vitamin. B vitamin
Okay.
will be washed out very quickly as you hydrate, as you should. So,
Hmm.
but it'll stay in a little longer, which is nice. If you forget to take it, you're still kind of protected.
Got it. Love that. So it doesn't matter what timing. And we already talked about the 250 milligram dosage is going to be where we're going to start to see some of that benefit.
Yes, 250 milligrams, you'll see focus and attention. And
Uh,
that's probably the number one claim that everyone's trying to work on right now, especially for teen athletes. They're still in school.
yep.
They still have routines they have to stick to. They have to remember when do they have practice or tell their parents when
Mhm.
to take them to practice. So there's a lot going on in their lifestyle, and focus and attention continues to be one of the top priorities for that age group.
Yeah, I was going to mention, as you kind of just alluded to, young athletes. they're not only, or even college athletes. I mean, they're not only playing their sport and a lot demanded of them mentally on that side, but they're in school all day and they have to focus and they need that. I think the such a big push to going to both physical and mental energy, physical and mental focus, so that we're fueling the whole athlete, we're fueling the whole day. We're not just looking at what we're doing pre, during, post exercise. So I think your point of building it all into routine. I'd love to just kind of maybe close out with thinking through there's a lot of demands on athletes as it relates to high intensity training, high intensity school, being involved, and that can create a lot of burnout for athletes. So, how would you say that specifically as we talk about cognizant and acetylcholine and whatnot, like how do we, is there a role that that plays in helping an athlete mentally build their stamina from a mental performance side as they're trying to balance all of these different aspects of life and stressors without hopefully leading to burnout and just kind of the lack of wanting to do anything?
Absolutely. Youth athletes, youth sports build confidence in youth
Hmm.
that they'll take with throughout their entire life.
Right.
So I think it's important to not only build the body, but build the brain together with it. So you're
Hmm.
building the brain and body connection together as they grow. Then you're setting them up for success, not only on the
Yeah.
playing field, but into life.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so hard because I mean, I just look around and I mean, the demands on kids, like physically, mentally, all the things. So I think it's such important that or so important that we're looking at fueling their bodies, hydrating their bodies, and then seeing what are these couple of things that you can do to potentially give them a stronger edge, both in school and what they're doing extracurricularly, and as it relates to just overall performance with, athletics and sports and all the things. So if we have parents, coaches, athletic trainers, whoever it is listening, even dietitians that are saying, I am so interested to learn more about what acetylcholine does in the brain, what cognizant is, et cetera. Where can we send them to help provide some extra information that they can learn about, read about, and see how it affects mental performance?
Absolutely. We're very transparent with that, and we want people to look for information.
Love
You
it.
can go to our website, cognizin.com, cognizin.com. You can follow us on social channels, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok.
Awesome.
We're all out there. And just you can also ask us questions. We are very
Okay.
open to answering questions
Fantastic.
for healthcare practitioners, consumers, you name it.
Perfect. And we're dropping all of that into the chat so you can go click on and find them in the different social outlets as well. Karen, it's been great talking to you. I love dialing in on specific things like this that lots of parents and coaches wonder about, but they may not know exactly how it works, what it is it safe? So I appreciate you dialing in on all the details today and really helping kind of make the science more doable, right? And more understandable. So thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks so much.